Hey besties, welcome back to a new season of Wellness Through Reading. I am your host Tanisha. I am like what you call your BFF of literature. I am here to guide you, keeping reading a daily habit as a form of self-care. So let's dive in. Hey y'all, I've been gone for a minute as you probably have noticed, and because life has been lifing, but you know what? I'm back for a new season. Super excited for more book reviews, more commentary, more just wellness, more everything. I'm first of all, if you are new to the channel, I welcome you. If you're returning, I welcome you back. And let's dive in. So today's episode all about ways to avoid reading burnout. We're entering into October, spooky season. We are almost there to the end of the year, and I don't know about y'all, but I've been feeling a little bit burned out. So, especially when it comes to reading, which, as a channel dedicated to reading daily, it can be a bit. That's what I'm looking for. Anyway, let's move on. So, ways to avoid reading burnout. So, number one, set realistic goals. Not goals. Oh my goodness. I'm totally burned out. But hey, let's determine a reasonable amount of reading you can handle each week or day. Avoid overwhelming yourself with an unrealistic reading list. Now, here on the channel, we all have a TBR list, which is to be read. Mine is forever growing. I have a huge stack of books, and I just purchased 2 more. Okay, I purchased 4 more. Whatever, don't judge me. But you know what? Don't feel like you need to read all of them for the end of the year. God willing, we'll all still be here into the new year. So just, we'll read them in the new year. We'll get to it when we get to it. Things do happen. So don't be hard on yourself. Which brings us to number 2, which is take breaks. Allow yourself to take regular breaks, not only from reading, but while you're reading. Stand up, stretch, give your eyes and mind some rest. This helps prevent fatigue and helps you get refreshed. Also, help you just remember what you just read. Sometimes you can just be so kind of zoned out because the day might have been hard and you're just staring at the same page. If that happens, just stop, go to bed, go somewhere else, go for a walk, take a minute, and come back to it. Reading should be a hobby, not a chore. So 3, if you're feeling a little burnt out from reading, diversify your reading material. Avoid sticking to just one genre or subject. Explore different topics and genres to keep your reading experience interesting and diverse. Switching from fiction and nonfiction can also maintain your enthusiasm. Also switching different genres. If you've been reading romance, switch it up. Read some fantasy, read horror, read thriller. If you're reading a lot of murder mystery, then switch it up, read some romance. You never know, you might actually like it. Number 4, create a comfortable reading environment. Now, ensure that your reading space is well lit, comfortable, and free from distractions. This can help you focus and enjoy your reading process without unnecessary interruptions. Now, for those of us who have the space, have a reading corner, reading couch, reading bed, reading pillow, whatever. Just determine that this is my space, this is my time to read. So give me my space and let me read. Rude, interrupting. Which leads us to number 5, practice time management. Allocate specific times for reading in your daily schedule. We have talked about this on the channel before. On previous episodes, set reminders. Put it on your calendar to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is my reading time. This is my me time. We gotta schedule our me times, especially as adults, which I think a majority of us on this channel are. It's hard sometimes with life gets life in to take that time out for yourself, but trust me, it is so important to take those moments. Take a deep breath. And matter of fact, let's all stop right now. If you're driving in a car, please keep driving. But if you're just sitting, listening to this podcast, I want you to inhale with me and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Doesn't that feel good? Taking that moment, taking a deep breath, and sometimes it just takes that moment, get back into doing things. I don't know, I just felt like the need to do that because life has been lifing around here and the news has been going awful, and it's just sometimes it takes time to take a deep breath. So, number 5, practice time management. Let's move on to number 6, join a book club or a reading group. Engaging in discussions with fellow readers can enhance your reading experience and provide a sense of community. It also adds an element of social interaction to your reading journey. Now, I know we've talked about this before a little bit, but listeners of the podcast, if you're interested in starting a book club here on the channel, comment down below. Hey, Tanisha, I'm interested in starting a wellness through reading book club. And you know what? We might just do that in the future. Experiment with different formats. Now, when we talk about experimenting with different genres, let's experiment with different formats. If you find yourself getting tired of physical books, try an audiobook or an ebook. And yes, we have done discussions on this channel about audiobooks being considered reading. It is reading. Write me in the comments if you'd like. But try it out. I mean, honestly, it can only enhance your reading experience. Switching between different formats can also bring a fresh perspective and make reading more enjoyable. Which brings us to number 8, which is probably my favorite step. Prioritize self-care. Take care of your overall well-being. Get enough sleep, eat nutritious meals, exercise regularly, and engage in activities that bring you joy. A healthy mind and body are better equipped to handle extensive reading. Like I said, inhale, exhale. This channel is all about wellness. Not just reading, but wellness. I want you to take care of yourself. This is your time to unwind. This is your escapism. This is your moment. This is your mindfulness. This is what we as readers love to do because it helps us to power up so that we can now be better for other people. So prioritize your self-care if you're starting to feel a little burned out, because you're not going to be good for anyone else if you're not good for yourself first. Number 9, don't force yourself. If you're not enjoying a particular book, put it on your DNR. Do not resuscitate. Meaning, this book, it's just you're trying so hard to put it in and try to read, and it's just not doing it for you. Just, put it on the shelf and pick up another one. Also, as always, reflect on your reading. Step number 10. After finishing a book, take some time to reflect on what you've read. Jot down your ideas, discuss with others, write a review, reflect on your reading, enhance your understanding, make it more of a fulfilling experience. Maybe the reason why you're feeling burned out is because you're just going through books after books and you're not taking the time to stop and be like, okay, what did I just read? What did I like about it? Contemplate on it. It's not homework per se unless you want it to be. Again, it's a hobby. It's not a chore. And also I always talk on the channel about getting a reading journal, writing out your reading journal, how you feel about the text, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And it just really helps to enhance what you just read. Also, it makes you feel good. And overall, it's just fun. Reading, as always, should be fun. And speaking of burning out, I don't know if y'all been following me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but I have been posting nonstop about this amazing fantasy, nonstop romance thriller. Just what? Yes. I'm not going to swear. I almost did. Called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And that is today's book review. Oh my goodness. Before we do that, I'm going to take a quick little pause, quick little promotion here, and then we'll jump back in. So one moment. It's that time of the month. Aunt Flo is in town. Y'all know what I mean. Especially the ladies of the podcast. These are all the euphemisms that we use to state that your period is on its way. I am a woman who used to suffer from extremely painful periods that kept me up at night, kept me in bed so I couldn't go to work. That was all changed, and when I found some main supplements. Our bodies fluctuate from day to day, week to week, month to month. So we need natural supplements that help support these hormones. And the supplements that they offer are the Daily Hormone Balance, which provides more energy, better moods, reduced cravings. Key ingredients include grapeseed extract, passion flower, B vitamin complex, magnesium, and zinc. There is also the PMS period support, which you use before your period to avoid bloating, have reduced cramping, and fewer mood swings. Key ingredients include green tea and vitamin D. There's also the urinary tract cleanse and protects your urinary system. Key ingredients are your cranberry juice extract. And then there's also the prebiotic for women for better gut health, soothes the intestines, and reduces bloating. And lastly, there's the menopause essentials, which helps to have fewer hot flashes, better sleep, and more stable moods. Me personally, I use the daily supplement and the PMS period supplement. And I must say, for the first time in my life since starting my period at the age of 15, both these supplements have helped reduce my pain ridiculously. I no longer get those stabbing pains anymore. So obviously I use the daily supplement on a daily basis, and then 2 to 3 days before my period is set to start, I use the PMS support to help with those uncomfortable mood swings and cravings that we all get during that time. I owe all this wonderfulness to Semaine. So for more information about it or to order your first bottle, go to SemaineHealth.com. That is SEMAINE Health HEALTH.com. Use the promo code Tanisha's Reading Corner. That is spelled TANISHASREADINGCORNER. All one word, no apostrophe. Tanisha's Reading Corner to get 20% off your first bottle. Periods are normal. The pain should not be. I thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back into the episode. All right, so thank you so much for returning back, and let's dive right back in. So, Fourth Ring by Rebecca Yarros. I saw this one on Book Talk, and after the first chapter, I knew I had to do a podcast episode on it. However, this book is it's so much wonderfulness, fantasy, love, romance, betrayal, violence. It's a little bit of everything. Then I decided to take this review in several parts. So, which in depth about central themes, the key to not only understanding the book, but also how we can apply it to our daily lives. Let's just go. Let's discuss the first 4 chapters and how the powers of mantras, is used to give our protagonist Violet Soaringhale the courage to persevere under harsh, hostile, and dangerous times. This review contains spoilers, so you have been warned. I'm telling it all, spilling all the tea, so if you haven't read the book, pause it right now. Go read it, come back, and then we'll talk. So, starting chapter 1, we meet our protagonist, Violet Soaringhale, who is a new cadet beginning to embark on a journey of a lifetime. We meet her on her way to attending the prestigious and dangerous Basgiath College from the land of Nareth. If none of these names sound familiar, it's because this is an epic tale falls under the genre of fantasy fiction. In this genre, anything goes. Magic, witches, wizards, fairies, and dragons. And this one has a lot of dragons. Consider Basgiath College like. Now, before we go any further with the plot, I want to start by just building up this world that we're currently in. Now, the continent that they live on has 2 kingdoms that has been at war for practically 400 years. Yes, they got beef, y'all. There's Navarre, which is Violet's home, which contains 6 provinces. Then there's the enemy kingdom known as Pormir, which routinely attempts to invade Navarre with their griffin flyers. Now, griffins in this world can channel powers to their flyers, but only dragons have the power strong enough to power the wards that protect Navarre. Also in this world, there are different type of gods and goddesses that they worship, one of which that is routinely one that the dragon riders often pray to is Malek. That is their god of death, who frequently pray to. The daily death roll has huge cause for this. Now, at Basgiath War College, there are 4 quadrants. There are the riders, which is where the dragons are. There's the healer quadrant, the scribe, and the infantry. Now, while the riders quadrant might be the hardest one to get into, it's the infantry quadrant that's by far the worst, because you're basically guaranteed cannon fodder. Now, let's do a recap of this, shall we? So Violet Soaringhale was supposed to be in the scribe quadrant with, because she has this condition where she has brittle bones and joints as well as a great memory, which is perfect for her. I mean, she loves reading about the battles, she loves writing about it. However, her mother, General Soaringhale, wants her to be a dragon rider like her sister and brother, her sister Mira and her brother Brennan. Her sister Mira doesn't want her to go, but supports her by telling her what to expect and gifting her a dragon scale armor. That comes in handy a lot with Violet. Before we go any further with that, I want to talk a little bit more about Basgiath College. Essentially, once a person in this world turns 20, they are then split up into 4 different groups. And at Basgiath College, it's like the overall arc, but underneath it there are 4 quadrants. The first one is the Riders Quadrant. That's where the Dragon Riders are. Then there's the Healers Quadrant, the Scribes Quadrant, and the Infantry. Now, the Riders Quadrant might be the hardest one to get into, but it's the Infantry Quadrant that's the worst place to be, because basically you're guaranteed to be cannon fodder. Now consider the dragon riders like the Marines of this world. They are legendary dragons that require a human host in order to project their individual signet that helps both rider and dragon become increasingly powerful and also helps protect the humans' homes and the dragon's veil. So it's a win-win relationship. But holding it is not an easy quest. There are multiple grueling, scary, and life-threatening challenges one has to prove themselves in order to be deemed worthy enough to bond to a dragon. You have to cross the parapet, you gotta go through the gauntlet, make it past the presentation of the dragons, make it past threshing, then survive 2 more years of this. It's a lot. However, Violet Sorrengail, at least in her eyes, has none of the typical traits that you would expect from a dragon rider. She is considered to be described in the book as being incredibly short with two-toned hair, pale skin from being constantly sick. Also, her bones are very pale and brittle. She has a condition that causes the bones to fragment and tear very easily. This happened when Violet was a baby. Her mother got a high fever in pregnancy and was greatly impacted on how Violet body handles diseases. Now, her father was a scribe and her mom's a dragon rider, and her father wanted her to become a scribe like him, but Violet Sorrengail's mother, who is General Sorrengail, had other plans. She basically told Violet, and after her father's death, that she was going into the Rider Quadrant. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, and if she even tried to go into the Scribe Quadrant, she would drag her back to the Rider's Quadrant. Yeah. They got issues, y'all. You can already tell in the first chapter they got a lot of family tension as Violet goes to her mother and tells her, I'm getting ready to leave. Her sister, who has been a writer now for a few years, comes in and is like, Mom, what are you doing? She can't do this. You're trying to lose another one of your kids. And that's when the room gets super cold. And the general basically tells Mira to get out, and she talks to Violet by herself. Now, there are 3 Sorrengail children. There is Violet, who's the youngest, Mira, who's the middle, and then there was Brennan. Brennan was killed during the rebellion of Tyrrendor. To fully understand the kind of conflict that's going on right now, there is a province in Navarre called Tyrrendor. They actually tried to separate themselves from Navarre, which could have left their wards, meaning the protective field around Navarre, completely defenseless against their enemies and also against the other Griffin riders that wants to invade. And so there was this huge civil war that was fought. In the end, Navarre winners won, Tyrrendor is lost, and that whole conflict occurred roughly around 6 years ago. But keep that in mind because that does become very important later on in the story. So after, Mira walks out, Violet walks out, and then Mira grabs her and takes her to her room and basically gets her prepared for walking into the Rider's Quadrant. She tells her all the techniques and whatnot, ties her hair up, helps repack her pack because it wasn't packed properly. Big sisters being rude. That's what I kind of got from that. Then she takes her over to the Rider's Quadrant. All the people are getting ready. Typically, for the other quadrants, they just kind of walk through the doors, but for riders, they have to climb. And the climbing is because the parapet. A parapet is basically a very skinny, brick sidewalk, if you will, that is placed like roughly hundreds and hundreds of feet above the air. I'm talking like taller than the Statue of Liberty, taller than, not really taller than, but like half of the Eiffel Tower, if you will. Like, this thing is tall above the ground, and you have to find a way to balance yourself on this like tiny little balance beam, if you will, that's made out of stone, and when it gets wet, it gets slippery, and you might just slip and fall to your death. Now, some people make it across, some people slip and fall. But the thing is, if you can't even balance on this, then there's no way to be able to ride a dragon. Everything that the riders go through in the quadrant is basically a test of can you ride a dragon. So yeah, it starts from day 1. So they have to climb up. As she's climbing up to the parapet, she meets Rhiannon and she meets Dylan. Dylan's a really nice guy, really seems sweet. Rhiannon is his powerful warrior who's really excited, who's dreamed about dragons all her life. And Violet's like, yeah, my mom made me come. She was voluntold to be, because you have to be volunteer in order to be in the Rider's Quadrant. You can't be forced. Unless, of course, you are the children of the rebellious readers of Tyrrendor. Now, Mira warns Violet as she's going before she goes into the Wire Squadron, that all the children of the leaders were conscripted as punishment for their parents' crimes. Yeah, going back to that civil war between the Providence of Trivandor, and Navarre, is that all the rebellious leaders that basically started the civil war were all put to death, and all of their children, as a consequence, were now having to all of them are subscribed into the Riders Quadrant. Yeah, they have no choice. They either have to bond to a dragon or die as consequence for their parents' actions, which I don't know about y'all, but when I first read that, that seems very harsh. I mean, the kids shouldn't have to be punished for their parents' doings. That's not right. I mean, meh. So already we're starting to see that the politicking is politicking, meaning that there's some nefarious things going on with the politics here. So I mean, I'm already intrigued. This is dragons. There's really farce politicking going on here, and also an love interest. We are introduced, not really introduced, but we're here of the name Xaden Ryerson from Mira, which tells her to avoid him at all costs. That name is immediately strikes something with Violet because last name Ryerson, his father, friend Ryerson, was the colonel who started the whole rebellion to begin with. And so that's his firstborn son. And so basically, the reason why to avoid him at all costs is because their mother, Lilibeth Sorrengail, General Lilibeth Sorrengail, oversaw Colonel Friend Ryerson's execution for his betrayal of Navarre. So yeah, Xaden might not like you when you first walk in, so avoid him at all costs. Which, I mean, good sisterly advice. Really appreciate that. Cause, I mean, and what was really scary was that they didn't think he was going to make it. Xaden. They didn't think he was going to make it to bond to a dragon, but he did. And he's now a wing leader. So it means he has not only a powerful dragon, he now has power. So yeah, do your best, try and avoid him. Which again, I mean, just when I first read that, I'm like, how is she supposed to avoid him if he's a wing leader and she's a first year? She's gonna have to do what he says, but she's gonna do her best. So, going back to the parapet, they're on their way, walking up, and as they reach the little hole where the parapet is, there are 3 riders already there taking their names as they go across the parapet. And then she locks eyes with one of them. And it gets a little intense. It's a staring contest. I mean, he's everything your mom, your sister, brother, everybody warned you about. He's a hottie with a body. He's the perfect love interest. Violet's head over heels in love. And then one of the road keepers of the front said, "Ready for the next one, Ryerson?" And immediately Violet's heart dropped. She's like, oh no, this guy I'm currently lusting after is Xaden Ryerson, the person that Mira told her to worry about. So she's trying to play it cool, play it off, and then Rhiannon was like, "Ready, Sorrengail?" And she just closed her eyes like, oh crap, no. And then he, of course, hearing this, snaps his head to her, and then it's like, Sorrengail? And it's like, oh crap, so much for trying to avoid him. So this makes the situation even more awkward. So they're caught in a staring contest, and all of a sudden you hear screaming. Dylan, who was ahead of Rhiannon, has slipped and fallen off the parapet. And so that's when she realizes why Mira didn't tell her, no, don't get too close to anyone, because a lot of people end up dying in the Riders Quadrant. So she's standing there horrified. Ryerson's standing there staring at her, and she's worried, like, man, I'm not going to be able to make it across because he's going to throw me off this thing. And he looks at her like, man, I'm not going to throw you off. The parapet will do it for me. And she's next. So that's how chapter 1 ends. My lord, that was... That's just chapter 1, y'all. Because typically it's interesting that she starts this way. We start action. We're not starting off with, in another location. We learn about that location and then we travel to the place. No, we're starting off at the place right now, here in center. Let's go. So that's a very different change of pace for fantasy. And I think I saw an interview that Rebecca Rose did, where she basically states that this book kind of is a way of introducing romance novel readers to a little fantasy world. So I like it. It's a little bit of both. We get the protagonist, we get the storyline, we get the plot, we get the conflict, we get a potential enemies, maybe lovers, interest. We'll see. So we enter into chapter 2. It's now Violet's turn to cross this thing. And of course, as always, it was nice and clear and sunny, and then it starts to rain. Hard. And so she jumped onto this thing and she's slowly making her way across. She's doing good. She's staying calm, trying to stay focused. And, she's reciting all the things that she once knew about, trying to keep her heart calm. Now, this is important to know. In moments like this where, obviously this is an extreme example, when our hearts are beating fast and we don't know what to do, it's always good to rely back on things that we know. In this case, Violet knows scribe work. She knows literature, she knows the work, so she starts to repeat to herself, past works that she's listening to help keep her calm, keep her focused. Now, while she's doing good, she's almost there, there's this a-hole behind her named Jack who is like, I'm on my way to kill you. This guy is a complete sociopath from day one. He is just an a-hole. It's like, dude, what is your problem? Like, on his way to kill her. Doesn't know her, doesn't know anything about her, has no real beef with her, but wants to kill her. He's a total sociopath right there. But anyway, she's on her way there, halfway there, quarter way there, and then she gets there and she turns around, takes a knife out, and basically points it right at him like, I will cut your balls off if you take one step towards me. And she's so in the moment trying to get this guy away from her, she doesn't realize that she's entered into the Rider's Quadrant. So there we go. She made it. She's made it. She has made it across the parapet. Against all odds, against her worst fears, she has made it into the Rider's Quadrant. She tells this writer her name, finds Rhiannon, who has found another girl named Tara to talk to, and then she goes looking for a lifelong friend, Dane. Now, Dane is a year older than her, and he's been in the quadrant now for over a year, so he's a second year. And so basically, he's a squad leader. So she goes off to find him, and Dane's like in shock, like, wait, you made it across the parapet? Because basically Dane knows about her illness, because best friends since like they were like babies and pacifiers type of thing. And so he's looking at her like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in the scribe quadrant. And he basically told her like, look, my mom told me I had to be here. So it's like, yeah, at first Dane seems like a lovable kind of guy. We learn more as we go along, don't want to give it away, but he's a friend who's trying to help her out, so he allows her into his squad. And then all the riders enter into the quadrant, and then they get into their groupings. Sections and squads. There are 3 squads in each section, and 3 sections in each of the 4 wings. That's how it's all grouped. And there are 4 wings. First wing, second wing, fourth wing. So at first, both Violet and Rhiannon are called to second squad flame section. But Xaden, who hasn't kept his eye off her the whole time they were in the quadrant, basically has it switched. So now they're in the 4th wing, which is his wing, and he's the wing leader. Hence the name of the book. So, after everyone gets called into their certain questions, Xaden Ryerson comes forward and gives a very interesting speech, say. Basically warning all the first years that, no one's going to care about who your mommies and your daddies are. This is the hardest quadrant. Half of you, talking about the first years, will be dead before the summer. A third of you, you're a second year, and a third after that. This is not easy. If you want a dragon, you better earn one. And then all of a sudden, they start hearing flapping wings. We look up, and we see several dragons descend into the quadrant. Basically sitting on the very thick walls they have. And then, people are oohing eye and some are screaming. And then one person is so scared they take off running. One of the dragons sees this, and then the dragon blasts the person with their fiery flame. And just like that, they are no more. And there's no more cheering, there's no more applauding. There's just, oh crap, this is for reals. This is scary. Basically, Violet even says they want us scared. Well, mission accomplished. It is not going to be easy. And as Xaden Ryerson says, to them, you are nothing. You're just their prey. So now we enter into chapter 4. And we start off with the roll calling. And every morning, in the writers' quadrant, they roll call all the people all the writers who had, no, not writers, but the cadets who had died before. You're first a cadet, and once you bond to a dragon, then you're known as a writer. So basically, cadets' first years are at the bottom of the pool. They are the worms, they are the nobodies. They are trying to prove themselves to show that they are worthy enough to bond to a dragon. And basically, the first couple of months is all about training them to show that not only are they smart, are they independent, but they can defend themselves and they can fight. So, after prison breaks, Dane, who is their squad leader, basically tells them, guys, go off to your classes. He says it so sternly that it kind of scares Violet. He's like, wow, who is this person? Like, he's not the same lovable person that I once knew. Which we will get. If you've read the books, you know exactly what that sound is. If you haven't, keep listening to this podcast, because you will find out that everything that glitters is gold in this relationship. But after they break, she does hear a bird call, and it's like, what? That sounds actually familiar. It's Dane. So Dane and her go off in this little area, and they start talking, and Dane tries to convince her that, this place is deadly, it's dangerous, I just don't think you'll be able to make it. It's like, look, I'm here, and I'm going to do the best I can. And he's like, all right. And then in their conversation, he actually tells her that, like, he has a signet power about his dragon. And his signet power is that he can read people's memories. And it's like, oh, well, he has to touch them first, which, pay attention to that, because that comes into play later on. He touches them, and then he can read their memories. And it's like, oh, that's a pretty powerful signet. Comes in handy a lot. And so they break apart, and she goes off to class. And as she's walking to her class, she looks up, and Xaden Ryerson is like 3 floors above her. And he's just staring down at her. And they're basically in this staring contest. This happens a lot between them. And honestly, in the beginning part, you really think, okay, is he trying to kill me? What's going on here? So he's just staring. And then all of a sudden, Dane comes out of nowhere. He's like, what are you? And she's like, top floor. He's like, so he kind of, Dane, like being the protective friend that he is, steps in front of Violet. And then Xaden kind of comes down the stairs, staring at them. And then Violet kicks off running. So yeah, that is the first 4 chapters of Fourth Wing. Now I gotta tell you, it took me a minute to get into it because I was reading other books and whatnot, but once I started, I could not stop. I was literally, it was like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I started reading this book. It was midnight when I finally put it down. I was halfway through. It's so good. It is action-packed. It is everything you want out of fantasy, anything you want out of romance. And I understand now the hype. It is absolutely worth the hype. I give it a 5-star read already. So as we go along on this podcast journey this season, I'm definitely going to break down more of these chapters. I'm going to take it bite by bite because I do want to review it with you. And also really want to talk about the power of mantras. So what is a mantra? It's something that we recite to ourselves to help us stay calm, to help us remind us of who we are, where we are, what we're doing, and our future goals as well too. So in this case, Violet's mantra would be, I will not die today. Which, again, this is an extreme example. But that's her mantra. I will not die today. I will make through this. I will get through this. I will not die today. I will find a way to get through. And I think like we as people, that is something that sometimes we forget. Like sometimes things can get so dark and so scary that we just lose focus. But sometimes you just gotta find that 5-worded one sentence that just you repeat to yourself. That way you stay calm, keep your heart rate down, and just get through it. It may not be as dramatic as I will not die today, but it could be something simple. I will have peace today, or I will do this today, or I will stay calm. I will breathe more today to get myself through this. That's powerful, I say. So yeah, all right. As always, I like to leave my readers with a quote, and our quote today's quote comes from Stephen King, and it reads, "Books are uniquely portal magic." And again, I thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Wellness Through Reading. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Our videos will be posted weekly on Wednesdays. Keep up with, book recommendations, tips and tricks on how to keep reading a daily habit as a form of self-care. I thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, wishing you all good wellness and good reading.